All right, buddy. It's one of my favorite shows we do every year down here at Media Days, but we got this pre-recorded. My SEC Media Days ballot.
Yes.
Already causing a buzz online. We have to see who gets mad at us at Media Days this year. It's always somebody, you know?
I remember it was Atlanta. That's when I first met Nick Roush.
Oh, yeah. They were, Kentucky was mad as hell.
Heat-seeking missile. I could see that little bald head all the way across the hallway just because he's tall, you know, and I just seen it zigzag, and I'm like, damn, he is on his way to us.
Right.
So, yes, this list is a little controversial. You were right, though, on that one, just throwing that out there. But yeah, we're there, man. We are freaking there, brother.
Last year was Bama, the Kane Dynasty. Well, I take credit for nailing that. A lot of people said got it wrong, but
you got Saban fired. I mean,
basically,
at the end of the day,
I'm gonna get some more guys fired here in a minute.
Hey, man, but you know, one of the things I love is again, you know, this is the college kickoff, right here. Like from here on out, no more list. The list season is after this list is dead. The list season, we move on, and now we can talk about actual football news and where we find out good things at camp. I mean, we're starting to get that buzz. Like, did you hear so and so at camp? Man, he looked really good. You know, and it's just all right, man. Now this guy that was on the roster is now a key contributor. You know, so you get that buzz. Everybody's undefeated, Mike. Everyone is undefeated right now.
Well, I'll tell you who's taking the first loss.
Oh, jeez.
Vanderbilt. Of course.
Oh,
I hate it for you.
Jumping right into it.
I mean, you have if you don't have Vanderbilt 16, there's something wrong with your list, you know?
I'm pissed. I'm not a Vanderbilt fan. I hate Vanderbilt growing up, you know? I mean, I'm a Tennessee homer. But I'm pissed now because everyone else is participating but them. You know what I'm saying? And we went to school with kids like Vanderbilt. You know, it's like we can't go outside and have recess because this dumbass is not doing his job, you know, or whatever the situation is. Vanderbilt is that person. And it ticks me off. Again, I know they're revamping the stadium. Some say that was forced. I don't know if that's true or not. But Sankey, you know, putting his foot down. I mean, we haven't talked to him about that. But again, here is a team that is not trying as hard as these other programs, Mike.
Right. They're finally investing in NIL. A little too late because they rated your roster.
Yeah, they lost their roster, yeah.
So, you know, again, better late than never, I guess.
I got on a rabbit hole the other night, Mike, and I was looking at Vanderbilt alum.
Right.
And I'm talking, I mean, that's where you want to go to school. If I'm talking to a doctor, I want him coming from Vanderbilt. You know? If I want my taxes done, yeah, I want a Vanderbilt guy.
Right.
But if I want football, it's the last guy I want to talk to. But I'm looking at all these boosters that went there, and I'm like, dude, you can make an investment. And it doesn't necessarily have to be football. We talked about Peter Burns. He says, just do basketball, you know? Get 5 or 6 studs, put them up in an apartment downtown Nashville. It's an awesome place.
Right.
And then grow from that. Look at all the hype Tennessee got off a baseball team.
Right.
You know, it felt like we won a football championship because they won out there in Omaha. So I just feel like Vanderbilt could be something special. And if they're hiring, I'd do it. I'd do it right now, Mike. I love you to death. Would still find a way to do this show. But if they gave me $1 million a year, I would fix it. But you got to give me money. You got to give me money, and I will fix it.
Yes. Where you at, Skip Bayless? You know, pony up. Yeah, that's a small chunk of his salary.
Just $1 million. $1 million a year. We could fund this show, you know, and we can do it in Nashville. I mean, it's a win-win for you because you don't have to drive far.
Right.
And all I'm going to do is make Vanderbilt relevant. All I'm going to do is I'm going to individually hit these teams. I'll start with basketball, then I'll go to baseball, and then when people are recognizing championships with my school, I'm going to ramp their football team up. Nobody gives a shit about stadiums, Mike. I don't. You have a bathroom? You have a cold beer I can drink? Yeah, I'm going to watch the football game. We can watch it in the Walmart parking lot. I don't care. I don't care about the facilities. What I do care about is athletes on my team making my program better, and that's where the money should be spent.
Right. And it just sucks. We're in year 4, Clark Lee. It feels like we're year 0 because rebuild roster.
Yeah.
Now, we may have may have finally got it with offensive coordinator Tim Beck from New Mexico State. Bringing in Jerry Kill. He was head coach of New Mexico State. So hopefully he can help Clark Lee. I like Clark Lee taking over the defense. He's going to call plays on the defensive side of the football. He probably should have been doing that from day one because he's an elite defensive coordinator. But quite frankly, Shane, I mean, I'm looking at the schedule here. If basically what Vanderbilt is in the SEC right now, I can't see them winning a conference game. But if they do, it's like, what's the response? The response is that coach that lost is probably going to get fired. And that's sad. That's pathetic. But that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. And that's where the optimism of the future is non-existent as well. I think that's the ultimate dagger in the heart is this isn't Coach Lee's first year.
Right.
It's I see nothing that is going to excite me about next year or the year after because guess what? We may find some studs on this team this season that emerge and maybe give Vanderbilt an opportunity to pull off an upset. But you know what's going to happen? Kirby's going to be in their living room tomorrow picking those athletes, taking them back home with him.
Right. Well, enough depressing this, Shane. Let's move on.
Yeah. And that's the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Of course, this ain't going to be much better, but I'm going Mississippi State, number 15, Shane. And again, it's just hard, man. It's hard when you're blowing up everything. You added a ton of athletes via the portal. You lost a lot too, but you added a bunch. I like the direction we're going on the offensive side of the football. It'll be closer to what Mike Leach was doing, but a lot more explosive. We got a quarterback guru as our head coach, play caller, Jeff Lebby. So again, but he's never done it. Not as a head coach. And he's hired, again, I hate to hamper on this, but he's hired a defensive coordinator. Never called plays. Now, he's worked for Ole Miss. He's worked for Alabama. He's worked for some of the big dogs. I think Texas, too. He's worked for many of the big dogs. So Coleman Hutzler is his name. He may be ready to be defensive coordinator. But there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of first years, and this feels like a complete unknown. And it's just hard for me to put Mississippi State any higher than this. Again, first couple SEC games, Florida, at Texas, at Georgia, and A&M.
Yeah.
They could be underdogs by at least 14 points in all four. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to get their ass kicked in all of them, but what happens if they do? And then, by the way, the last three, at Tennessee, Mizzou, at Ole Miss. I mean, good God, Shane, I just went through 6 teams. 5 of them could be in the top 10.
Yeah.
That's your league conference slate. I'm not saying you go winless in the SEC, but, I mean, best case, you're looking at 2-6.
Well, and I want to point out that there's a big gap between 16 and 15 here. Vanderbilt and Mississippi State are not the same teams.
Yeah.
One thing I like about this program is optimism will be in full display here. You're going to have some games where you're going to say, hey, I get it. I get why we hired Levy. I get why we need to be patient with this football team, because there are going to be a couple moments. You mentioned some of those SEC. I mean, watch the Florida game. Watch the A&M game. Don't be surprised if it doesn't come down to a wire because Levy's team's going to put up some points. But, when you suck at football, because I've been there. I've been there. When you're at the bottom, I'll never forget Derek Dooley in Arkansas, and we just got absolutely smoked, And I was just, after the game, I wasn't so mad that we lost. I was mad that I saw nothing in the future that was to enjoy or to look forward to, But that was pre-transfer portal era. Levy can become exciting and a fun place to play. Mississippi State could be a fun place to play. And people want to be a part of that. It's easier now when you're going to have a track record and you're in that receiver's room and saying, hey, man, if you come here, you are a star, and I will make you a star, and I will put you in the league. Hey, you're a quarterback, you're backup here at a powerhouse program like a Georgia or a Bama, come up the street. You're wasting your time here because there I can put you in the league. And that's the beautiful thing about this day and age is that you can flip the script in one season. All you need is just that glimmer of hope. And I think at the end of the season, there's going to be a few games you're going to look back and say, hey, Mississippi State isn't going to suck for long.
Right. Yeah, but one other I know you're being optimistic, but I'll be pessimistic.
Yeah.
Good cop, bad cop. Again, the future of our program is offense. High-flying, scoring a lot.
Yeah.
But again, a problem here, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, Missouri, and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I would argue all their best side is offense as well.
Yeah.
So the key to winning these games is outscoring people. So I think the games you hit on, Florida, A&M, those are games we could outscore people and steal.
Yeah.
We could certainly outscore Arkansas. Hell, we did it last year, 7-3, one of the most glorious games of all time. So there is a path. I shouldn't have said 2-6 worst case, best case. 3-5 in league play is best case. But and thankfully they get all those at home, the Florida, A&M, and Arkansas. But again, I can't sit here and tell you they're going to win them all. You know?
And that's the problem this early in the game. We don't know. We got coaches that have never done it before. We've got a team that's very young, just not a lot of experience, if you will. So, I mean, it's just question marks at this point. And optimism is,
right.
Yeah, you mentioned, I like being optimistic, but still we're talking about 15 here.
And one thing I should have said, too, it's kind of weird to do. There's no divisions, obviously, anymore. I should have made that clear off the top in case anybody forgot. There's no more East. There's no more West.
Yeah.
It's just 1 through 16.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more difficult to predict because some years you could be 5th in the West, but you're top 25.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know, if you're 5th now in the new SEC, you're top 10 probably.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas there's people get mad you picked them 7th in the West before. Now we're picking teams 16th in the SEC. It's not fun, but that's the task. And I'm going number 14, Shane, South Carolina. This is tough, Shane. Tough for me to do because I feel like I'm on an island when I say Beamer's a good coach. I think he is. I like, he's an underdog. He's pulled some upsets. That's a football crazy fan base. They demand excellence, and it feels like a lot of momentum was lost last year. And if we go 14th here, I don't know how much longer Shane Beamer's the head coach. Mm-hmm. So I hope this doesn't happen, and I'm not guaranteeing it does, but. I don't know. I don't know what we're holding. I guess we're clinging on to we have a breakout quarterback.
Yeah.
We fix the offensive line, but I'm a little concerned at running back. I'm concerned at receiver. I'm still concerned on the offensive line. We're bringing back a ton, second or third most, depending on what metric you use, on the defensive side of the football. Mm-hmm. But our defense was god-awful last year.
Yeah.
So how much that's returning production indicates they'll be better.
Yeah.
But how much better? That'll be key. I like pieces in the secondary. They got nice defensive linemen too.
What about the portal? I mean, did that not move you at all? I mean, they were very successful in the transfer.
They were
portal.
the top 10 portal class,
yeah.
But they added like 30-something guys. So, I mean, it's different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
Some people got to add a lot. I'm more in the camp that if you add, 5 to 10 elite players, mm-hmm. that probably tells you you're happy with your roster. If you're adding 30 guys, it tells me you're probably not happy with your roster, right?
No, and the reason, I guess I'm not arguing with you, is not so much that I think South Carolina. Here's the deal, bro. I could tell you South Carolina's 14, but I think they're 14 because of that schedule.
Yeah.
South Carolina always has a tough schedule, but man, it is, especially October is an absolute dude,
Right. Here's their October. Ole Miss at home. They're going to be underdog. At Bama, at Oklahoma. And then, by the way, early November, Texas A&M, which they've beaten one time since A&M's joined the SEC.
You got LSU there, Clemson, Mizzou. I mean, that's
right.
You're going to have a lot of losses probably. And how much rope do they give Beamer before they start saying, hey, is this our guy? Because obviously you don't hire a guy to come in year 3. And is this year 3, right?
Year 4.
Oh, jeez. Mike.
They made bowl games first 2. They missed it last year.
That's
what I'm saying. You can't make a bowl game first 2 years and then miss it the next 2. How do you mess
this up? You knock off Tennessee and Clemson. You knock them out of you knocked them out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And how did you not capitalize on that? Am I missing something? What happened, Mike? What happened in Columbia?
Defense took a big step back. Injuries on offense. Juice Wells, offensive line.
Place to play. Everybody was talking about them. Like, damn, they wanted to be part of something special. And then all of a sudden, we're talking year 4. Do they make a bowl game? And let me ask you this: if they don't, Vegas thinks they may win 5-6 games.
Right.
If they win 5, do you retain Beamer or is
I would, the way the recruiting's going.
Yeah.
I think you bring him back, but he'd be on a short leash.
I mean, when you're talking this low in the rankings, hot seat's going to come up with
Right.
about all these coaches. But year 4, that's a long time, man. Year 3 is when they want you to hit.
Right.
Year 4, now you should be humming. And we're talking about, are we making a bowl game or not?
Here's the key to the season, Shane. First month, Old Dominion at Kentucky, LSU at home, Akron at home. They got to win 3 of them. Mm-hmm. If they win 3 of those, I think they're going to have a good year. I think they'll make a bowl game because certainly they'll beat Vanderbilt, they'll beat Wofford.
Yeah.
So right there, you're at 5. They can Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, A&M, Missouri, Clemson. They can beat one of those.
Yeah.
For sure. I think they'll get to 7 if they go 3-4 to open the season.
Well, we did that South Carolina preview. We said that Kentucky game, week 2.
Yeah.
That's it. That is the
season's on the line.
Isn't that crazy? But it's facts. You cannot lose that game.
Right. You got a winning streak against them, so you got to continue that. All right, number 13 on the list, Shane. Arkansas. Give me them Hogs. I've been too high on them, so I'm glad to be too low on them.
Yeah.
Let them prove me wrong again. I think they will, but it's a tough go of it, Shane. I don't know how many we got. Landon Jackson on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know how many difference makers we got on the defensive side of the ball aside from him. Loving what we're hearing about Taylon Green, the quarterback, could be a sensation. Bringing back a ton of receiver. Luke Hawes at tight end and missed most of last year. He was going to be a freshman All-American. He was on his way to it. Bringing him back. At running back, we lost some pieces, but I think we're good with what we've got coming back. It's all about that offensive line.
Yeah.
And why can't Sam Pittman field a competent offensive line? I don't know. But we fired a offensive line coach, got a new one in here. If he can correct it, I think Arkansas could be the biggest surprise in the SEC.
Well, on that note, was it hard putting? Because this is Mike's list, not Shane's list. Again, reminder to the listeners. But did you give pause putting him on that ranking, like because of that could be optimism?
Yeah, because I think all the road games are all winnable. Oklahoma State, Auburn, Mississippi State. Well, maybe not Missouri. 3 of the 4 are winnable. Yeah. And hell, it's a rivalry. I know they say it's not, but crazy things happen in rivalries. So yeah, I'll say it again. I think all the away games are winnable. I don't think you're going to win them all, but they're winnable. The problem is you got a damn gauntlet at home: Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas, and then of course A&M on neutral field. So it's just.
But they are at home.
It's a gauntlet.
Yeah, and crazy things can happen. It just. I really do think. I try not to get. We talked about quarterbacks a few weeks ago, and I think, Green. It's. There's a reason to be optimistic about him. There's a reason that Arkansas fans are so damn pumped up right now because of what they got to see. But, part of you in the back of your mind is like, well, does the secondary still suck? And right. So you kind of go back and forth on there. But
linebackers are a complete unknown. That's a problem.
But if Bobby P and Green are the real deal, then this is a team that could quickly move up the list because of the scheduling. Like you said, having very winnable games on the road and the toughest matchups at home, which Arkansas's never been really known for a crazy environment. But by God, if you're winning, they can be. Right.
And it's all about. This is another one we'll talk. There's another team that this will very ring true to, but for me, it's about how they start.
Yeah.
Because if we go in the tank here, we lose to Oklahoma State, we lose to Auburn, I think it's going to be a bad year.
Yeah.
I don't know if Pittman makes it. Now, you beat Oklahoma State, Auburn's whooped your ass a couple years in a row here. So, I mean, that may be too far to go. But if you go 4-0, I think you're in for a hell of a year. I think you'll be the biggest surprise in the entire conference. I really do.
Well, Sam, you're always welcome here, my friend. Always welcome here.
Yeah.
We'll drink cold beers and talk about the good old days.
Absolutely. We're rooting for them. All right, how about oh God. They don't like me right now. You know what? I don't like him, Shane.
Auburn?
Number 12, Auburn. Come on, buddy. Get the hell out of here with this. If the best thing we can say about you is you almost beat 2 good teams,
Oh, damn.
That ain't that good, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
You blew these games. Well, this is what Auburn does, Shane. They get Bama and Georgia at home. Those are like the miracle years.
Yeah.
They get them on the road. They get blown out both. They're gonna get blown out again at Bama, at Georgia. So right there is gonna be tough. I think Oklahoma. That's going to be a season-defining game. Oklahoma will be coming off the Tennessee game at home. There's a very good chance that Oklahoma's 4-0, or at worst 3-1. We'll get there, but that's going to be a huge football game. I think Kentucky's going to be huge. I think A&M. I mean, there's just so many landmines on this schedule. They got. I get it. They got recruiting's off the chain. They signed a bunch of talented players. This is why I'm number one enemy down there, but I just don't think you can ask all these freshmen to come in and win a bunch of games in the SEC. Not unless the rest of the roster around you is strong, and it's not at Auburn.
Well, I get, I mean, everybody's seen the clip by now, of the comments you made with Pat down there. And, some of the things that I thought about, first off, was quarterback, Peyton Thorne.
Yeah.
Part of me is saying, well, maybe Hugh Freeze does see something in him that we didn't. Maybe he sees that maybe the right plays weren't called. I mean, obviously we got new coordinators now.
Remember last year though, he was like, "Man, we talk every day."
I know.
A lot. Like they just talk down there. He's my best friend. Like he finishes my sentences, and then we saw him on the field. It's like, what happened to that? You know what I mean? Like,
I know. And I don't want to put all the pressure on Peyton Thorne, because one of the things you mentioned is that there's a lot more talent there now than there was last year.
Right.
And it is young, it is an experience, but part of me wants to kind of give them that leash, because if you keep seeing the improvement, I one of the things I understand about the transfer portal, not everybody is Lane Kiffin. Not everybody can go out here and just pick whatever they want, like a grocery store, and go home and cook. You got some programs that have to build from the ground up that foundation and create that culture. And one of the things about Auburn is, if they do have the time to create what Hugh's wanting to do, they could be a top 5 team every single year, because you got to have that competitive depth. And sometimes competitive depth just isn't a star from a no-name school that you brought in a transfer portal. Competitive depth may be a lineman that's been there for 5 years, that sits there and maybe gets to be a key contributor in the 4th game of your season because somebody went down, that sort of situation. So I think it's a little skewed. I think, I go round and round, man. I kind of agreed with you on a certain extent, but I kind of disagreed with you on some of them. And
well, let's do this. The best case scenario. I'm completely wrong about Auburn.
Yeah.
Let's say easy 5-0 right out the gate. Alabama A&M, Cal, New Mexico, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, all at home.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a stretch that they'll be 5-0.
Right.
Like, that's not going to stun anybody, right?
Yeah.
What is best case record, though, if they start 5-0? How are they going to end? And here's the schedule. At Georgia, at Mizzou, at Kentucky, Vanderbilt at home, ULM at home, Texas A&M at home, and at Alabama. What best case in your mind? If they go 5-0, what's the best case record?
8-4.
That's what I'm saying. So we're going to sit here and say, God, we were 5-0, and then we went 3-4. Like, is that building momentum?
No.
I feel like fans are going to be like, what the hell happened? We were top 20, top 10 in the country. We were 5-0.
Yeah.
It's almost, it's not as bad as what happened to Billy Napier,
Yeah.
but it's similar to me last year. They were 5-2. They ended up 5-7. Again, it's not exactly but again,
I think noticeable quarterback crumble. Right. If you're sitting there, you talked about Oklahoma. If you go to Oklahoma, it's at home, and let's say you're down 3 scores and Peyton Thorne's having a shitty game,
right?
They're not going to say Peyton Thorne's having a bad game. They're going to say Hugh Freeze is having a bad game because they wanted to keep Peyton Thorne. So I get that side of the argument, but I don't know if the pressure's there. one of the things that you brought up was the hot seat. So if they go best case scenario 8-4, is Hugh Freeze on a hot seat the following season, or I mean, what record would they have to have this year to be a hot seat the following season?
Well, I always got Hugh on the hot seat because he's one tweet away, he's one hooker phone call away.
Yeah.
We'll see. You know, will he fire his coordinators again? Will beloved assistants get let go? They're all excited again about all this recruiting. What if these guys say, God, we lost by Georgia 45 points. And Kirby's saying I can come start for him, Cam Coleman. I'm off to Georgia. You know what I mean? Like, this is all the stuff we can't foresee. But again, it's not just the record. It's how he's managing a program, how competitive is he. I think a lot, like, I hate to say, and again, this is going to sound like I hate the guy. He should have stayed at Liberty.
Yeah.
You know, G5, they get a playoff spot now.
Yeah.
I think he would have made the playoff damn near every year at play. I think they were undefeated at Liberty till he left. You know, and last year they went undefeated. He's going to make it at Liberty. He would have made the playoff all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever makes it at Auburn.
Wow.
Ever.
Yeah. You've really got it out for old.
You know what I mean? Like, I think for him, it would have been smarter to stay down there.
I ain't gonna lie. When Auburn hired him, I was excited because I think of the glory days at Ole Miss. I think about how they.
Well, there was glory. There was also a lot of other stuff. You know,
maybe
glory
not all
holes.
the stories, but again, one of the things from an outsider, because back then we didn't have a show or anything like that. Just an outsider. You know, when they started getting that #1 recruiting class, you're just like, what the hell are they doing over in Ole Miss? You know, and now that that's free or allowed to do, you know, you're like, it's just a matter of time for Auburn does it, and you're starting to see it with the recruiting classes coming in. And now again, wasn't aggressive in the transfer portal, but I'm not saying that they can't be. It's just maybe he just. Well, I don't want to say that.
Well, here's the thing, though, and here's why I'm down on recruiting. People think this is like, oh my God, you know nothing about college football, the history. You gotta recruit, and I'm not stupid enough to say it doesn't matter. But my point is, you are not understanding today's generation. Again, we're saying best case 8-4. What if it's 6-6? Mm-hmm. Are all these 5 stars going to just sign up for that again? Right. I think they're going to hit the portal.
Yeah.
I think they're going to go where there's not chaos, where there's not all this drama, where they can go compete for a college football playoff. That's my issue with recruiting. That's why I basically have stopped paying attention to it outside of signing day.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, and again, more power to them, but there's money involved, and these kids, you know, they're committed till they're not, and they flip on a dime, and then a lot of them come for a season and then hit the portal. It's like, I don't care until they show up, and we know what they are.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just it's lost a lot of its importance to me.
The portal's more expensive or more valuable than recruiting,
right? Because I know what I'm getting, and I know the impact, and I know when we signed this 5-star quarterback, you know, it used to be we got him for 4 or 5 years. Now it's a year-to-year proposition.
Yeah.
If Billy Napier, again, we'll get to Florida, I don't think he's getting fired, but if he gets fired. That's the #1 story in college football. Where's DJ going?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean he's leaving.
Right.
But I bet you he is.
No,
so who the hell cares that you signed a 5-star?
Yeah.
We fired our coach. He's gone, you know?
Well, and we see momentum. We see programs implode with the transfer portal, and we see them built. You know, last year we talked about Lane Kiffin. It was just, I mean, it was the buzz. Everybody wanted on that train. They're kids. These are kids.
Right.
And we're talking a lot of money on the line, and they have, some of them may not get that NFL opportunity, you know, so this is the time to make their money. So they're going to do what's best for them and their family at this moment. So I get that in the day and age. And it was one of the craziest things I saw. I think it was showing the NCAA championship game. And if you look at that roster on both teams, from start to finish, like, where did these kids start and how did they land up? You know, it was amazing to me how many kids did not start at that, you know, Michigan or didn't start. You know, they transferred up there, and you don't talk about it. I mean, you talk about the big names moving around, but there are so many moving pieces, competitive depth especially, moving around to these different programs so they can have the opportunity to get to the NFL. So I'm right there with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think recruiting is important, and I think there are a lot of kids that do stay the full 3, 4, 5 years, and I think that is kind of goes under the radar. Maybe some of these no names that you don't see that's going against your best defensive lineman in practice. That's making him a better athlete. Somebody that,
Right.
Some of that gets lost, but the portal is the future, and if you don't embrace it, you'll get left behind.
Yeah. Speaking about getting left behind, Shane, number 11, Kentucky. I know you're going to hate that, buddy, but, buddy, sorry, Roush. He's probably going to find me at media days
There he
again.
is, heat-seeking missile.
I think this is the one coach, Shane, that nobody's talking hot seat that I think could get fired this year.
Oh.
Mark Stoops. Win totals in the toilet, 6.5. That's a disappointing year now at Kentucky, and it should be. I mean, they have multiple winning seasons and all this, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Liam Cohen seemed like he was interviewing for every damn job, wanted out.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not buying the Brock Vandegrift hype to the extent you are. I don't care how many phone clips he's got. Doesn't mean he's a bad player, but again, I'm just not quite buying it. Schedule's kind of brutal. Again, that South Carolina game, if they lose that, you might... Again, we're in real trouble. I think every road game is losable. At Ole Miss, at Florida, even though you've owned them, at Tennessee, at Texas. You may lose all those. And then home games, Paramount, South Carolina, Georgia, Auburn, and Louisville. I mean, I think all the home games, all the key home games are losable. I'm not saying that certainly they're not going to lose all these games, but I don't know. I just got a bad feeling. And again, they were riding high last year. I think they were 5-0. And they get their ass whooped by Georgia. And Mark Stoops comes out here and says, pony up. I'm making $9 million, but I need more money to buy me a roster. I think that those comments are going to haunt his ass this year because they ponied up to get Brock Vandegrift and some other players. And if they don't deliver, I think he's going to be delivering his damn resignation letter.
Well, I don't think he's on the hot seat. I think obviously last year was something we'd like to put behind us as a Kentucky fan.
Right.
And I do feel the frustration of that program. They want to be good. They want to be great. They want to compete for SEC championships. And it's...
Can they do it though when he tried to get the A&M job? Well, again, that's in the back of my mind too. That's your damn head coach saying I can't do it here. I'm going to go A&M do it. And then they were like, "Oh wait, you can't have a job anymore."
Behind the scenes, we don't know. I mean, there's a dynamic relationship with coaches and Barnhart and all those guys up there. Mm-hmm. I think you could justify the rumors. How could you not be attracted to Texas A&M with get everything? We saw it with the baseball coach.
Yeah.
They said, "You're going to take why?" Why would I go to Texas? I'm at A&M. I got all the money I ever need.
Yeah.
My family loves it. They love sports, So I get the natural draw. Kentucky, you're competing. You're competing with the basketball team. Whether you want to say it or not, I mean, it's the facts.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a basketball school. You want to be a football school. And they were close. I mean, man, there was some seasons that they kind of were a football season or football team football
School.
Program.
Yeah.
Whatever. You get what I'm saying? I'm about 18 Dos Equis in right now. but I will say
he's not drinking. He's
I know.
Give me two more.
Oh man, we got going. I was like, man, this is nice. I just want to keep rolling. So, but on that note, brother, the reason I'm high on Kentucky is because of what they do have. Yeah. Not what they could have, what they actually have on that campus. They're going to have one of, if not the best defensive line in the country. They're going to have a receiver room that nobody's maybe talking about now, but they will be by the end of the year because how dynamic and just freak athletes on that squad. I'm sold on Brock, and I'm not sold that Brock's going to be a top 5 quarterback, but he will look like one because of the weapons he has around him.
Right.
And I think Coach Stoops, there's a little pride with him too. I think, the fact that the way that played out last year, you better not believe that's not hung up in his garage somewhere. And I think Kentucky, the kicker with Kentucky is the scheduling.
Yeah.
It is not easy.
So would you agree with me, though, these road games at Ole Miss, at Florida, at Tennessee, at Texas, I mean, best case, we're talking 1-3.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can disagree.
I'm disagreeing.
Who are they beating?
I'm
beating
looking
Florida? Who
I'm
else?
looking ceiling 9-3 this year.
Who are they beating on the road? They beaten Ole Miss.
Florida. Florida's a win.
Right. What about Tennessee? How about Texas? I mean, you got to give them. You got to.
Let me see that schedule one more time.
They ain't
Let me
beating
find you.
Georgia.
All right, so let's just say optimistically here, you start out 2-0, beat South Carolina, Georgia you lose, Ohio you win, so you're 3-1. Ole Miss 3-2, Vanderbilt 4-2, Florida 5-2, Auburn 6-2, Tennessee.
The math is not math in here, Shane.
I mean, you're gonna need an upset.
Yeah.
I mean, but what do you need for an upset? You need a freaking quarterback that can do it. They got it, and you need weapons around them that can make it happen. They have it. So you need defense to create, just mayhem. Whether it be Texas or Tennessee, I think that's the two games you'd be looking at. I mean, one thing we did talk about Ole Miss, and I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to lose this one, but it is the ultimate trap game. Is Kentucky and Ole Miss. So I'm not. We're
Okay.
We're talking 9-3 ceiling, and I just don't want to say who it is. I just hope who it's not. How about that?
No, this is gonna be controversial here, Shane. I love it.
Oh,
Number 10, LSU.
wow!
Way down the list here. I don't get it. I don't get any of the hype, Shane.
What are you missing? What are you missing here?
You just lost all our dynamic players on offense.
Like they did the year before.
No, they brought everybody back. No. I picked them to win it all. They broke my heart.
They got the best offensive line in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a start. You got to,
and they got the worst defense in the Power Five.
They had them last year. They're all back and they're better. So they got a coaching staff.
I don't know. They got a coaching staff, Shay. But
and this is one of the things we talked about the LSU preview. I don't think LSU had a bad team last year. They just had bad coaching. I really do. Sometimes bad coaching is the thing.
Yeah,
Mike, and you may have the greatest team ever assembled, but if you got the leader putting you in the wrong spot, then you're going to fail. And I think that's the part we saw was there was no progression on that side of the ball. There was no adjustments at halftime. I mean, it was almost like, hey, yeah, we'll just try to outscore them, kind of situation.
Here's the problem, Shane, and I'm terrified to admit this, SEC homers. I have no love for Lincoln Riley and Southern Cal.
Yeah.
I think Southern Cal's going to win it. I really do. Well, after 6 months of hearing you're garbage and you suck and you're gonna get your ass kicked, we see. I don't know what it is. Brian Kelly can't get his teams up in these games. It's in Vegas. It's a hell of a road trip from Baton Rouge. Not much of one for Southern Cal. I think Lincoln Riley. There's a lot of bad to say about him, but what you can't say is he's one of the sharpest offensive minds in college football. Going up against a retooled defensive staff, taking over the worst defense in maybe the country. I don't know how many stops they're going to get. So if we go there, I'm not saying the wheels fall off, but I think we're in for a down year if that happens. And then South Carolina, again, we're not singing their praises. I got them pretty high down the list. Well, what happens if South Carolina beats Kentucky on the road? They beat Kentucky 2-3 years in a row now. Mm-hmm. Then you turn around and you get LSU at home, Williams-Brice. Nobody's giving South Carolina a shot in that game. I think they could be walking into a buzzsaw. And again, we could do this for every damn game on a schedule. But I see a path where LSU, I don't know how realistic it is, but I see a path to them starting the season 1-2. And I think their two toughest games are at home, Ole Miss and Alabama. I think they lose both of those, even though they're at home. And I think Florida, again, we haven't even hit Florida. I think Florida's most underrated team probably in the country. That's in Gainesville. After losing to Bama, I think there's a letdown factor. I think that game means everything to Billy Napier in Florida. I don't think it means much to LSU at this point in time. So that's a tricky one. At A&M, Mike Elko may have it rolling by this time. I'm seeing a lot of losses here, but that's before we get to Oklahoma too. Oklahoma could be the ultimate wild card in the SEC. There's a lot of losses on this thing.
Remember them cartoons when we were growing up and the adults would talk and all you'd hear is womp, womp, womp. That's all I've been hearing for the last 3 minutes, Mike. You lost me when you said LSU is this low on your list because I would argue that LSU football team has a real shot to make the playoffs. because of the scheduling.
Yeah.
The two toughest games you mentioned, Ole Miss and Alabama. The best part about those games is you got a bye week before both of them. You've got time to prepare for both of them. And are they on the road? No, they're both at home. Yeah, absolutely. So I understand the natural knee jerk reaction that Jaden Daniels is no longer there.
Yeah.
It's that I get it. I totally get that. It was a fly. Sorry. An LSU fly. And it's attracted to shit. Shit takes. That's what it's attracted to, Mike. And that's exactly what that one was. That man, LSU has got talent to win the SEC. Now, I'm not saying they're going to, but they have the talent. And this is one of those teams that there's not one game on that schedule that you could pencil in when you're going into it like, we're going to beat LSU. That's a no-brainer. Because we know deep down inside, Coach Kelly, I mean, how many 10-win seasons does he have to have in a row for us to say, hey, he's a good coach?
Right.
He is a great coach. LSU's lucky to have him. He saw a problem with the defense, couldn't correct it midseason, did correct it, went out and got the best defensive mind that was open to come to LSU.
Right.
One of the best defensive line coaches to ever coach to get down to LSU and fix some of those problems and mistakes that they were making all last season. So if that defense does improve, even if it's 50% improvement, we can afford a little loss on the offense side of the football. And it's easy to say, well, LSU, they lost all this first-round talent. Well, they do every year. That's LSU, and they've got plenty of five-star talent to choose from. They're currently sitting on one of the every time I pull up on 3, there's like LSU just got them another number one in this, whatever. It's like
right.
They're cooking right now. And I'm telling you, brother, LSU, people are sleeping on them. And I think there's still a chance to edit this, Mike. We could pause it, delete it. It never happened because I think LSU's the top 5 team.
Okay.
This is the LSU fans.
Top 5, huh?
Top 5. Top 5.
You're top 5 wrong. All right. I hope for their sake, I hope you're right. Number 9, Shane. Florida Gators. What a time. They should have hired Billy Napier.
Brother.
This is the team I'm over the moon on, Shane. I can be dead wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We lose to Miami. Let's fire Billy. It's that bad, right?
Oh, my God.
We're living life on the high wire up here. But I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to start 5-0 going into that Tennessee game. And hell, I mean, God, they beat them more than often than not. You get Kentucky at home. That's going to be paramount.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all losable games, but with what they got coming back, the progressions they made, their defense was awful too, but they're bringing back, top 4 of returning production across the board on the defensive side of the football. I think Florida is going to stun people. Stun them, Shane. Billy Napier, Billy Ball's back. Coach of the year.
You've been at this all offseason. And I'm not going to lie, you've kind of pulled me back in a little bit because I was completely out.
Yeah.
I was Billy's getting fired after that Mississippi State loss, kind of attitude coming into this thing. And one of the things I do like about the Florida Gators is, just the tenacity, man. This has got to be – I'm not there. I'm not behind the scenes, but I would imagine that this is a locker room full of brotherhood, that knows yuppies like us are out there talking about how shitty they're going to be and their schedule and blah, blah. And this guy's not as good as that guy and this team is not this team. And I feel like, when you can just as a unit drown out that noise, then you play better. You play better because it means more. Because if you let down on one drive, that you're going to make this guy beside you suffer. So I think there's something to be said about that tenacity and just they're all, we talked about all chips in the table with Ole Miss. I think it's like that with Billy Napier. I feel like this is the year that they've really got to make some noise, but I still think you're too high on them. And it's not that I don't like the Florida Gators. I think this year's Florida Gators are better than last year's.
Yeah.
I think exponentially better, but their schedule isn't. and the problem that they have, and I don't want to be like everybody else, but if all goes as planned, Florida is going to face more top 25 opponents than anybody in the country.
Right.
So natural reaction is they are going to have more losses than everybody because of it. So this isn't your power rankings, is it?
No.
Yeah. So if
It's my ballot.
power rankings, I would have them higher. Ballot, I'm going to have them lower because of that.
Well, and then I think it's also easy to look. Last year, lost the last 5. Momentum's down. But you look at those 5, Shane. It was LSU, and Jane Daniels had like 700 yards, 5 touch. He won the Heisman that night.
It was back and forth for a long time.
The whole game.
Yeah.
But he was just far better than any player on that field. Missouri,
Down
on
the
the
wire.
road. They should have won, but they allowed 4th and 19, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Field goal to win it. Again, ifs and buts. But the fact that they were in all these games against top competition, I think they would have beat Florida State had Graham Mertz not got hurt. They just never gave up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the record is not indicative of how overall good they were last year, if that makes sense. So I think they're going to build off that.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I think that's what a lot of people lose when we talk about Florida is you and I are both in the camp that the Gators will be better this year.
Yeah.
It's just who are they playing? When are they playing? I hate the schedule. I absolutely hate. I wish it was kind of spread out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a real shot. Florida starts out 5-0, and then all of a sudden, they get that momentum. But if they drop 7 after that,
Right.
then all of a sudden Billy's getting fired again. So it is very, very, very tough. But I've been wrong on the Florida Gators a lot. I'm 42, but turning 42 this year, so I would say 41 years I have been wrong about the Florida Gators. So they may, at the end of the day, have a Heisman quarterback and a national championship team down there, and I don't know it and I don't respect it. But, that's the beautiful thing about that program is, you can't keep them down for long.
Right.
We want to. I enjoy it. I enjoy when the Florida Gators suck. I do. But it's a bear that's been hibernating, and you're afraid he's going to wake up any day now.
Yep. Well, speaking of a bear here, Shane.
Yeah,
Number
how do you
8.
segue from that? I always like to throw something out and see where you go from it.
Oklahoma. Again, 8 in a conference, not great, but there's going to be an adjustment. And again, this you could win 8-9 games, still be 8th in the SEC this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult road here. Again, we did the fall camp series and we got them to 9, and that was just giving them Tennessee, Auburn on the road, Texas. I mean, those could be the 3 toughest games for all I know, But this damn gauntlet here, Shane, at Ole Miss, at Mizzou, Bama at home, and at LSU. I don't know what in the hell Oklahoma did to anybody at the SEC office to garner this schedule, but I think this is going to be one hell of a fun team to watch this year. I think they're going to be one of the better defenses. I think they're going to score a ton of points. You could talk me into putting Oklahoma a little bit higher. I don't think they're going to be competing for the SEC. I mean, I think that kind of goes without saying. I've not heard a lot of that, but the over/under is only 7.5. I think it's there for good reason. I think they'll finish better than that, but not much better. Probably 8-4-ish type team for Oklahoma.
Yeah. No, I always wondered, like, when they started discussing coming over Texas and Oklahoma, if Texas wasn't like, hey, we'll do it if you give us an easy schedule, you give Oklahoma a hard one the first 2 years, because they knew they weren't going to redo the schedule. So that's kind of what I feel like happened, and there's going to be an adjustment. We talked about this during the quarterback one. There's either we're right about Oklahoma or we're wrong. I don't think there's a middle ground. I think either Oklahoma comes over here and immediately plants the flag and lets everyone know that they are now the top dog
Right.
in the SEC, or they get punched in the mouth. And either way, either SEC fans aren't ready or Oklahoma fans aren't ready, but there's going to be a wake-up call. And looking at this schedule, we know these teams. We know how good they can be. and maybe Oklahoma doesn't right now, and that's the kicker. It's like they haven't been following Mizzou since they left the league. You know what I'm saying? And you don't see that they potentially have the best quarterback in the country and a loaded wide receiver room, and then all of a sudden you got them in November and you're trying to win. You don't see that. So there's a real shot that 6, maybe 7 of these teams are going to be top 25 when you face them.
Right.
So they've got a long road, but I think fans should be optimistic because they can hang with them.
Yeah.
That Tennessee game, week 4, I think that one is your first SEC game. Tennessee fans think they're going to go over there and win. Oklahoma fans think they're going to win. You have an opportunity to do exactly what I said at the start of this is just kind of remind the SEC who you are, or you lose it, and you got to hear my fat ass rant about it for a week about how good Nico is. So there's something that's going to happen that week, and that's the beautiful thing. You got to play out the games, but Vegas is usually never wrong, or if they are, they're not crazy wrong.
Right.
They're thinking you're going to win 7, 8 games. So I think you got them in a sweet spot here.
Mm-hmm. All right, number 7 on the list. Now we get top half here. This is going to go over well. Texas. Texas. Going to come into my league and dominate it. Come on now. Get the hell out of here with that talk. National championship, Heisman winning.
Jeez,
we won the Big 12 first time in 20 years. That makes us ready to come in here and dominate. Yeah, get the hell out of here. You beat the King Dynasty.
SEC Mike. SEC Mike. Of course, they know. They've already got you muted. Like you got those keywords muted. They got SEC Mike muted. So if they ever see it pop up, that's crazy talk, Mike.
Back-to-back Oklahoma and Georgia.
Yeah.
Best case 1-1, I think.
Okay.
Best case
11-1.
At A&M, loss. Again, hyping up Florida. That's going to be a tough one. I think you are wild to have Michigan as just like this walkover win. I think that's going to be tough in Ann Arbor. Kentucky at Arkansas. Arkansas owns them in Fayetteville. Landmine after landmine after landmine. I think, again, now we're in the top half of the SEC, so I kind of kid, but not really. I mean, ballpark 9-3, I think, for Texas.
And that puts them where in your range? 7th. So 9-3 would be 7th in your opinion?
Yeah.
Damn. It's gonna be a good
lot
year.
of good teams in the SEC.
Be good for
man.
the SEC. No, I think you're crazy on this one, Mike. 'Cause I don't hate Texas. I don't just wake up every morning and say, you know what, I can't wait to piss a Longhorn off today. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where we're at. And, again, it's easy to get wrapped up into, last year. I think you could look at last year as either a preview to what they can be, or you can also look at the close games and say,
outlier.
hey, you know what? They got lucky on a
I'm
few
saying
of
it's
these.
an outlier.
Yeah. So I've already used up my big word, so I didn't know that one. That's a good one. Key that up. Can you put that in? Make it look like I said it, I'm right there with you. But the one thing I do like about Texas is we know what's on that roster, and it's an SEC roster. It's an SEC schedule that could easily find their way into an SEC championship year one. I really think that, because you want to talk about the opposite Oklahoma. You mentioned it, Oklahoma and Georgia. Those are your toughest games. A&M at the end of the year is going to be tough. You can't pencil in Michigan. You can't pencil Florida, but you can if you want to, deep down inside. And I want to, because I think that the toughest two game stretch is going to be back-to-back Oklahoma and Georgia. And worst case scenario, they lose them both. They're still 10-2, and you're making an argument that they're into to the national championship playoff. So I think, we're way too low on the Longhorns, Mike. That's Mike's list, not mine. Again, we got 10 cameras here. So this one, Mike's list, not Cousin Shane.
Number 6, the best team from the state of Texas, Shane. Texas A&M. I kind of painted myself in a corner because I already said A&M's finishing high at the Texas. So I had to find a narrative to get us there. But, again, we may even start slow here, Shane. Notre Dame, they're saying top 10-ish type team. I ain't buying that bullshit. But, if you lose it, not going to affect your conference standing. Week 1, Mike Elko, it's a night game. I expect A&M's going to win it. on the road, Florida may not be a better spot than to get a road SEC game, particularly if Florida loses to Miami. The wheels could already be falling off. So, if we can win that one, there's only 2 games that I think they could possibly, well, maybe 3, but 2, Mizzou at home and Texas at home. And you could throw LSU in there, but I got LSU 10th for a reason. I'm not buying it, but again, I could be dead wrong. But aside from Mizzou, LSU, and Texas, who are they losing to? At South Carolina, at Mississippi State, at Auburn, Arkansas? I mean, I think they'll beat all those teams.
Now, who did you say the loss is going to be with? Like, let's say worst case scenario.
I said potentially Mizzou and Texas. And then
LSU? You wouldn't even put LSU in
remember,
there?
I just put them 10th.
Oh.
So, but I said that's fair if you want to throw them in there. But again, if I have them 10th,
Yeah, see,
and
I
I
have
got A&M 6th,
I have LSU higher, so I would say
and all these are at home, Mizzou, LSU,
so
Texas.
There you're sitting at 9-3.
108,000 screaming Aggies, waving them towels.
Doing their chants on the sideline.
I mean, that's a tough-ass place to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's home of the 12th man. I mean, that's what they say.
I think this is the team, Shane, that could shock the nation. And again, I'm putting them 6. I'm not saying they're going to do it because they're tired of me saying they're going to do it. I'm saying could do it.
Yeah. I'm going to shock you here, Mike. Texas A&M is going to fight like hell to make a bowl game this year. Fight like hell. Now, I'm not completely out on A&M.
What's worst case for A&M then? Since
Worst
I
case,
just did best case.
7-5.
Where are the 5? Mizzou, LSU,
Notre Dame. Potentially Florida. It's early.
Okay.
Mizzou,
LSU and Texas.
LSU, and Texas. I mean, and Auburn. You're Auburn Tigers. I mean, you can't ever rule that one out. It's away.
I'm ruling it out.
No, I mean, have you seen Auburn's home games last year? They went toe to toe with 2 of the best teams in the country. So, and plus Hugh Freeze has got a lot to prove against you. So, and A&M fans are happy. They're happy because the Shane's finally off the wagon. I've been on this freaking wagon for a long time, brother.
Pick them to go 5-7. That'll really help.
No, I don't think 5. I think barely make a bowl game. I think you
6-6.
Yeah, because you dropped the last 2.
Yeah,
that they're fighting like hell. They got beat New Mexico State to get in, but they do, and Connor Wigman has been replaced by this point. So I'm not out. I do think Mike Elko's the guy.
Stick Billy Lucci on your ass. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. A lot of people. Yeah, I don't hate A&M. I do hate betting on them.
Yeah.
So it's probably best.
You've been burned by them.
Oh my gosh, so much. I'm watching these highlights. I'm doing these highlights for us, and when you see guys like Anai Smith and what's his name, the running back.
Devon A-Chain?
Yeah, Devon A-Chain. It's like, man, you had some dudes, man.
That was all Jimbo's fault, though.
I know, I get that, but
his ass.
How many
gone.
times are we going to say that? I've got to see it now. I've got to see it with A&M to believe it because I do think that there'll be a noticeable change with Mike Elko's defense, especially. But that doesn't help our offense problems, which was the biggest problem we had last year.
Yeah.
So I got to see it. I just got to see it to believe it.
Well, here's one I think you're going to like, Shay. You've been hating all these. Number 5, Tennessee. Come on.
Yes, sir.
That may be too low for you, but Tennessee, I think they're closer to 22 Tennessee than 23. I like the schedule. Bama at home, Florida at home, Kentucky at home. Again, you can never count Tennessee to beat Florida. Certainly not Alabama, but you beat both of them last time you got them at home. NC State in Charlotte's tricky. At Oklahoma, at Georgia, I wouldn't even count at Arkansas as a gimme. Going on the road.
Yeah,
it's tough, but what Tennessee's got, I think they can beat damn near all these teams, and I think 10-2 is very realistic for Tennessee.
very, very realistic. I like talking realism. It's like because you're at a point now. These teams potentially could be college football playoff teams.
And let me say it this way too: if again, these are ifs. We're not guaranteeing anything. If they can win at Oklahoma and they can beat Florida at home, I think they're going to the college football playoff.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think 95% of college football would take that bet. If you could beat Oklahoma, Norman, and Florida at your home stadium, and that'll get you to the playoff. I think that's where Tennessee's at this year.
There's a lot of championship buzz floating around East Tennessee, and rightfully so. I like the roster. I like the quarterback. I love the schedule. People are going to make NC
James
State.
Pierce, maybe the best defensive player in the country.
Seriously, they're making NC State out to be this great team. They're not. They're not. They're making the Oklahoma game bigger than it probably will be, but I think that's the game. You want to make a playoff, you got to beat Oklahoma. You do that, you're in. You don't, because there's still that shot that you lose to Alabama and Georgia, but a 10-2 Tennessee team gets in.
Right.
I firmly believe that.
Otherwise, you were looking at you have to beat Georgia maybe in Athens.
Yeah,
which is a tall drink of water here.
It is. I mean, it's not that loud there. It's not a loud environment per se, but just kidding. No, you don't want Georgia win on the road to be the team that you need to beat. But at the end of the day, you're talking about college football playoff where there's 12 teams. This is a program, I would think, that going into this season,
yeah,
you're not as worried about, maybe not Georgia, but like an Alabama that you have been in years past. It's kind of got that chip off your shoulder. And I think if you truly poll ball fans, they feel like they have, if the stars align, an opportunity to beat the Georgia Bulldogs.
Let's be honest though, real talk here.
Real talk.
Level of concern. Be honest. That 2022 11 win was a flash in the pan that will not be duplicated.
No.
None at all.
No, I'm not.
It was Hendon Hooker. It was Hyatt. You'll never have that again.
No. Yeah. That's not it.
Okay. I had to ask.
I guess my concern, my real concern is some of the depth issues. Mainly, I don't want to be the guy that says it, but quarterback.
Yeah.
For this system to run, you're going to have a mobile quarterback. What if? That quarterback room is extremely thin. And what you talk about a drop off, and how many times have we said, "Hey, this quarterback's going to." It's fun to say that, but it's different when you got 12 games. You're getting attacked entire time. So
right.
There's a little concern that he's not a big guy. So
okay.
Yeah.
And that's just the thing no one can predict, right?
Yeah. So that's why I'm not saying that's why I don't have them, but there's still some question marks on this team for me.
Okay. How about number 4, Shane?
Alabama, the decaying dynasty. Look at that new coach and everything. They still stay top 5 in your list. You love them.
I mean, I don't think there's going to be a massive drop off. Now, Georgia could be a loss. Mizzou could be a loss. Tennessee could be a loss. I mean, I'm couldn't
LSU?
a lot. These could all be wins.
LSU?
They could beat all these teams.
Yeah.
I think LSU is an easy win.
Wisconsin?
Easy.
Early in the season?
Easy. At Oklahoma, tricky. Iron Bowl is probably a 40-point ball game.
So LSU's easy, but Oklahoma isn't? Oh, wait.
I got Oklahoma better.
That's right.
Better than LSU.
I'm just reminding the listeners how low you had LSU. My national champs, LSU.
But I don't know. I just think 10-2 is probably in the cards here.
There's obviously going to be a drop off, right? You think the greatest of all time walked out, and you're just going to plug a coach in and just pick up right where you.
What are the odds? Let's go it that way, because apparently you hate Bama now too. You hate about half these teams.
I don't hate Bama.
What are the odds we go 8-4 here? Because that'd be terrible. 8-4. Yeah. At Wisconsin, Georgia at home, South Carolina at home, at Tennessee, Mizzou at home, at LSU, at Oklahoma.
40%.
Auburn at home.
40%.
40%.
Yeah. Again,
does Kalen DeBoer make year 3 if they go 8-4?
Yeah,
I think they're just going to get worse.
I think there's too much money at stake here, and
so they'll just keep bringing them back, even though they're sucking.
Well, you're saying 8-4. We still got 2 seasons after that.
That ain't acceptable.
8-4 year one's not, but 9-2 8-3 next year, 10-2 the year after.
Fire his ass.
We see improvement. He's building the team. And Alabama is a rare situation where you have a coach come in and you don't have a huge drop off, but you do.
Yeah.
Look how much talent left. You know what I'm saying? Look at that secondary, for Christ's sake. There's going to be some drop off, and there's going to be some growing pains. And that's one thing I hate about Alabama's schedule is even though you just threw it away, you got Wisconsin on the road, week 3. You've got Georgia right after it. I mean, there's a shot. It's a long shot, but there's a shot that Alabama starts 2-2. And all of a sudden, the sky starts falling. So
I think any year Alabama doesn't make a playoff, the coach is coaching for his job the next year.
that's the expectations there. That's the culture
Yeah.
that Nick Saban's created. But and it's unfair, but you signed up for it. I'm never going to feel bad for DeBoer for taking this job. We knew when the day came that Nick Saban walked away, whoever took his spot was going to be maybe that's what Lane Kiffin was waiting on. He's like, I need a fall guy before I go.
Right.
Before I go to
Now,
Bama.
let's flip it the other way, though. And this is like the ultimate homer take, because Nick Saban's the greatest of all time. But he was slipping.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said the Kane Dynasty, and that's why I was right. What if, I'm not saying he's the greatest of all time, but what if in the current state, DeBoer is an upgrade over Nick Saban? Because I don't know that that's being said enough. Like, what if 2024 Kalen DeBoer is a better coach than 2024 Nick Saban? I mean, how damn scary is Alabama in that scenario?
Well, I think the offensive side
Right.
was in hiring coaches. I mean,
If he's that level, they should have the best offense in the country.
the reason Nick Saban was so good to me, it wasn't so much the players, wasn't so much the team itself, was the staff he assembled.
Right.
He always got the best. He was a true CEO of that program, but I think the slippage was picking the wrong cats. You think about O'Brien, you think about Tommy Reese, those were terrible hires, man. At the end of the day, they were terrible hires. And, on that side of the ball, you kind of get a little more confident. Okay, now he's got Jalen. They're working together. This could be a hell of an offense. And one thing that I do like about DeBoer is if you look at his short track record, it's not long, man. I mean, he's been very, very successful. But could you stem that off of rare talent? Can you say, hey, Penix was such a dude that he put me on this spot, but when I remove him, what would that team look like 3 years from now?
Right.
So I do think that coaching and putting together programs sometimes it's just the luck of the draw, like being there at the right time. At the end of the day, it's the talent you put on the field, and Alabama will always have talent. But if he finds a way to squander that talent, yes, he will be on a hot seat. 8-4s are not acceptable in Alabama. They're forgiven year 1, but year 2, they're starting to question if that was the right pick. Year 3, you're being replaced.
Speaking of squandering talent, they better not this year. Shane, number 3, Ole Miss. Come on, buddy. And I think this is the dream scenario for Kiffin. We've talked about it. You don't want to be top 2.
Yeah.
You don't want to play in the SEC championship if you don't have to. If you've already secured your spot in the college football playoff, which I think Ole Miss will do. I think they'll compete for a national championship. If they beat Georgia, it is at home. They're probably number 1 on this list.
Yeah.
But I don't have confidence in them to necessarily do quite that. But Ole Miss here, they're going to be game wreckers, top 5 in the country for me. I think they're going to be phenomenal, 11-1 type year for Ole Miss. I think they half their damn schedule, I think they'll beat them by 20 points or more.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to one we're not mentioned yet, but you talk about dream scenario. Ole Miss is walking into one right now. You got an experienced quarterback. That's great. Not just a good quarterback, a fantastic quarterback.
Right.
You've amplified the athletes that are around him. You fixed the problems that you were having last year, especially with that defense. I mean, Lane Kiffin, after that Georgia game, came out and just told you what he needs. Boosters helped out. They went out and got it and fixed the problem. I think about that in the transfer portal. We need running back. They go out. They got 4 of them.
Right.
Everything you need, we're giving you. They call it the last dance. They call all chips on the table. This is an experiment, man. This is a transfer portal experiment that will either backfire in our face or it will be the recipe for future success. So, Ole Miss has not gone under the radar. They're very vocal about it. Lane Kiffin, especially on social media, is a hot commodity. I'm sure in media days he's going to have some things he wants to bring to the table that we'll probably be talking about for the next few weeks. But all eyes are on Ole Miss for once in a long, long time, Mike, and rightfully so. This is a great football team, without a doubt. I think they're in the college football playoffs. And competing for an opportunity. Now, are they the best team in the SEC? Some say yes, but I still, just because you have the pieces doesn't mean it's going to work together. But right. I do think they got enough talent to play anybody in the conference.
And I think what is not said enough about Ole Miss, I mean, everybody talks about the schedule, everybody talks about the offense and Kiffin, but year 2 of Pete Golding.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting here saying they're going to be the top defense in the country, but I think what they'll need, LSU, Georgia, maybe Oklahoma, you need a getting after the quarterback. You need to force a turnover here or there. And that's what Pete Golding does, havoc. Mm-hmm. Get after the quarterback. Picks. Again, you don't got to be the best. You just got to get that ball back to your offense, 1 or 2 extra possessions. That's how you beat a Georgia.
Yeah.
That's how you beat a LSU. That's how you beat Oklahoma or playoff games. That's how you win it. Again, I'm not sitting here saying they're going to have a top 10 defense in the country, but if they have a top 25 and they have a good game or two, they could beat anybody.
Yeah.
Because they may have the best offense in the country.
You need some mistake erasers, like
right.
if you lose a fumble or if you have an intercept, can you get the ball back or do you give up 7 points? Is that a 14-point swing? In any football game. And I think that's what's kind of hurt Lane Kiffin in the past is when mistakes happen, other teams capitalized on it and then it was just too far for them to catch up. Well, now they got the athletes to catch up, but more importantly, they got the athletes to never let them get behind. So this is a very, very nice roster, well constructed roster. And if you are just playing dynasty on NCAA, this is a team you would build.
Right.
So there's a reason for optimism there in Ole Miss.
All right, number 2, Shane. No surprise then. We're at here. Mizzou.
Yeah, Mizzou.
Mizzou Bike over here. SEC, this is my pick already, make the SEC championship. Mm-hmm. And again, just to be clear, we're not doing power rankings.
Yeah.
Do I think Mizzou's the second best team right now? Not necessarily. But I think the path sets up for it, and they have an opportunity to prove, the hell, they may be the best team in the SEC. And based on the last couple of years, Shane, there's probably 1 or 2 teams that Georgia least wants to see, and you got to throw Mizzou into that conversation because they played them tight as hell the last couple of years. Now, thankfully, for this scenario, they don't have to play them in the regular season. They may have to see them in the SEC championship. If they get there, that's more than likely going to be their opponent. But I love Mizzou. Got Brady Cook as the best quarterback in the SEC this year. Love the weapons. Again, defense is a question. They've added via the transfer portal, so that's holding me back, making me think this may be a bad pick. Thicker kicker gone. But those are about the only negatives I can see. I think they cruise to 10-2, and they could be 12-0.
12-0. Could you imagine? Soak it up, Mizzou. I'm right there with you, man. I mean, everybody knows this is kind of. I mean, they've Mizzou's near and dear to us.
Yeah,
it's like a kid that we raised but wasn't our own. Not so much a step kid, but like a neighbor kid that you helped out. And now he's doing it himself and he's making it out in the world. That's kind of what I feel like. I finally pushed him on his bicycle and he doesn't have those training wheels and he's going, man. And everybody else is watching him now. But we were there in the beginning.
For him to fall.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were rooting for him to fall.
Yeah.
And they still are. They want
every
Mizzou
drink,
to fall.
car jumping video, guitar playing, they just can't stand it.
They cannot stand it.
How's this dweeb winning all these games,
At the end of the day, Mike, this is a talented, super talented football team, especially on that offensive side of the ball, led by one of not the best quarterback in the SEC. Wide receiver room, freaking loaded, man, top to bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely freaking loaded. I'm not worried about running back. I know a lot of people, are, but I'm not, because when you have that around you, you just need a name back there. They're going to make a name for themselves, and they got plenty of talent in that room. It's the offensive line, a lot of experience, but there is, we did lose a couple of guys, and the defense. I think the defense is, if you're asking me, the biggest concern is it's easy to say, well, we'll just replace the talent, but there was a reason that a lot of those kids went on to the NFL because they were freaking amazing. And, there's going to be a little rebuild. Beautiful thing about Mizzou, though, ultimately is their schedule. To figure out some of those, maybe those mistakes early in the season, very forgivable mistakes during the first 4 weeks of the season. You got a schedule where you don't have Ole Miss, you don't have Georgia, you don't have LSU, you don't have Tennessee, you don't have Texas. There's a reason we're extremely high on you, because when you remove those teams as opponents, there's no reason that you, a better team, shouldn't win some of these games, if not all of them. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. Mizzou makes the playoffs, potentially an SEC championship game, which would be, brother. And this fan base, my God, I didn't realize they had so many of them. And maybe they don't. Maybe they just kind of navigated there. But you talk about an online presence. They're feeling it, and they're hungry.
And I like what we talked about drinking his goofiness, but I think he exudes confidence too.
Yeah.
The players believe him. They love that guy.
Yeah.
Again, they may not be the best in the SEC, but a good coach who gets you to believe in yourself. I think he's that guy.
Yeah.
Where they want to fight for him.
Yeah.
Because he's fighting for them out there. So I don't know. Throw that. He's like the new Spurrier in my mind. Maybe not quite X's and O's type. We can't give him that, but just the brashness, the bravado-ness, staying on business. He's out there talking his game. And that's gotta filter down to the players.
Because we all know people like this. I'm like this. I cutting up. I'm not going to give you a hard time. I'm going to give you shit all the time. You know that, Mike. But that's who he is, and I think that when you, and I'm not shitting on some of these other coaches, but like DeBoer, right, or Kirby, they're going to say their coach speak and all that stuff. Whatever, But if a guy like Drink hits it, people hate him because he's so genuine. Just like Beamer. If Beamer were successful, if he was having an 11-win season, we'd be doing the same thing. But I like that. I like the Lane Kiffin attitudes. I like this new generation of coaching staff, because you know why? It resonates with the kids that you're trying to bring to your campus. That's why they're having success on the road. They're not having success because they pulled off 11-win season last year. They're having success because these coaches can relate to this, or these players can relate to that coach. Yeah. That I don't even know what the hell he was driving or how he was making that vehicle bounce. But you know what? My daughter liked it when she saw the video. You know what I'm saying? And kids, they eat that shit up, and so they know what's up. So this is a big year for Mizzou, and you get the schedule next year, brother. That's one thing that nobody's talking about. All the success you're having this year, there's a real shot that you can continue to build off that and the momentum into the following season. Then we look back, and Drink's got 3, 10, 11, 12-win seasons under his belt. My God, they're becoming an animal. They're adding on to the stadium.
Right.
You can't go to they have a Mizzou grocery store aisle now. Chips, nuts, drinks, doesn't matter. They got it Mizzou. Oh, look. Oh, can you feel it, Mike? This is the year.
Well, it's always the year in Athens, Shane, with Kirby Smart down there. So that's where I'm going, number one. And this is, this is a weird comment, Shane. I don't even know if this makes sense. But I am fully confident that Georgia is the best team in the SEC. But I'm not confident they're going to have the best record. So it's weird to say, but again, it's the complete opposite of last year with the schedule. At Clemson in the opener, again, who knows what you get out of them, but I don't think they're going to lay down. I think that's going to be their Super Bowl. At Bama, at Texas, Florida in Jacksonville, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, at home. That's a damn gauntlet.
Yeah.
I think 95% of college football teams would lose 3 or 4 of those games.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sitting here saying certainly they're not going to lose 3 or 4, but I think they'll lose 1, maybe 2. But if you go 10-2 with this schedule, you're probably number 4 in the playoff. You know what I mean? Like they ain't gonna drop or anything.
Yeah.
They're playoff locks. But again, I'm putting them number 1 because they're the best in the SEC. I think it would be a disaster if they didn't make the SEC championship. But this is going to show us a lot about Georgia. You know, was the 2 years they won the national championship? Is that as high as they'll ever get? I mean, Georgia was cursed.
Yeah.
Does the curse come back? I don't think it does. But again, that'll teach us a lot. Carson Beck, the offense should be humming. Defense took a little baby step back from elite of elite where they were. So where do they return? How good is Georgia going to be if the defense is elite again? You know, that I'm scared for the rest of the SEC if Georgia's defense is elite again. And again, it's not like they were far off, but they against the run was a little suspect last year. So if they can get that back, if they got some dominant defensive linemen like they've had in years past, they may go undefeated, and they're my pick to win the SEC.
Yeah. I mean, everything you say is right. I mean, with the Georgia Bulldogs, there's no question of who has the most talented team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, from the bottom of that roster to the top of the roster, they have the elite of the elite athletes. And just even if you took that room of kids, and let's say they've never played football ever in their life, they're still going 8-4 in the SEC. You know, if you just tell them, hey, you got to get across that line there.
Yeah.
They're just that talented. So I do think that there is, I don't think the road is as easy as it has been in years past, which is great, man. I mean, how many times have we looked at a Georgia schedule and at the November, we're like, man, they don't play anybody. Is that going to hurt
Already
them
got
in
the
the
East
SEC?
locked up, you know?
Is that going to hurt them in the SEC? Is that going to hurt them in the championship? You know, I feel like having a tougher schedule is, I think it's the best thing that could have happened to Kirby Smart, and I hope he had a hand in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want Bama on the schedule.
Right.
I want Texas on the schedule. I want whoever you think's going to be the best, because that's the mentality they have. We can beat anybody. Doesn't matter where it's at. They let it slip out of their hands last year against Alabama, and this is a revenge tour for them. I hate that saying. It's so stupid, but it is. You know, Kirby is so passionate about this program. You talk about a coach that loves Georgia. I mean, he will end a Georgia Bulldog football head coach. You know,
Right.
He lives, breathes, eats this shit up, and the players feel that. It's passionate, and I feel like coming into this season that this season is personal. You know, they want to prove to everybody that they should have stayed home. They should have got COVID. They should have got sick. They should have, had a flat tire. They should have came up with some excuse why they're not on that field, because we're not going to go around them. We're not going to scheme them up. We're going to go right through them.
And this pressure is not the right term here, Shane, but there is something on the line, I think, for Georgia this year to prove that, like, with Nick Saban gone, they're the dynasty.
Yeah.
Because I think there's many a teams, Ole Miss, Texas, A&M, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Mizzou, Oklahoma, LSU. There's teams that could come up here, and not that they'll get to that point, but I think it's going to go one of two ways, Shane. It's going to be now Georgia runs the SEC instead of Bama, or every year a team's going to jump up and have their shot. Not just one, but like 2 or 3 are going to be battling it out annually.
Yeah.
So I think it's for Georgia to squash that if they can.
And Mike, at the end of the day, if you take a 30,000 view of this thing, if you just back it up a little bit, you got to realize we're in a window, and this is Georgia's window right now. There used to be an Oklahoma window, Miami window, Ohio State, USC
Southern
window.
Cal,
I mean,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You are in a window right now where you are the most feared team in the country, and that's not promised 10 years from now. 10 years from now, we're
Only one that could do it was Saban.
Yeah, he broke the mold, but that's one. That's
Right.
one that did it, and so the odds of it continuing to happen is very rare. So you are creating a legacy now. You're creating a dynasty now that we can look back and say, hey, remember what was his name? Kirby Smart. Remember that team?
Yeah.
This is one you're going to be telling your great grandkids about if you live that long. But
Because I would
capitalize.
imagine, remember when Urban was at Florida,
Yeah.
they had Tebow, and behind him they had Cam Newton. They never thought it was going to end.
Never thought.
And it ended in a heartbeat.
It ended.
You know?
Yeah. 98. You remember that season? I thought, this is it. We're here. We're here, baby.
All right, wait, real quick. Team I have too low. Team I have too high on my ballot. Do you think?
LSU's too low.
Number 10. I got them 10. Too low.
Yeah, way too low. This LSU should be I think a top 5, top 6 team.
Okay.
I think they're one of those fringe college football playoff programs, not just because of talent, but scheduling. It's just very, very favorable. Plus, you've got a proven track record. You know, when I look at, I think it was 6 years ago was the last time that coach didn't win 10 games or something like. I mean, it's some crazy stupid stat. So, I think that one now too high. Let's go with Texas A&M, number 6.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah, get that team out of here. I do think that A&M improves from last season, but it's not a rebuild, but it's a rebuild, man. It's going to be another year, maybe 2, before they're ultimately competing for college football playoff spots. I may be wrong. Vegas is a little higher on them than even I am, but I'm usually wrong with A&M. So that's the one I've got too high right now.
I'll have Billy cut you a check.
Yeah, he'll be happy to hear that.
All right, buddy. I guess we'll cut it right there.
Please, because the sun's starting to come out.